Stop telling people to stay positive during tough times. It's the worst advice you could possibly give someone who's drowning. Positivity without action is just wishful thinking dressed up in motivational quotes. The people who actually survive and thrive during crisis aren't the ones posting inspirational memes on social media. They're the ones who get angry enough at their situation to do something about it. They're the ones who embrace the darkness long enough to find the light switch. Real transformation doesn't come from pretending everything is fine when it's clearly not. It comes from staring your problems directly in the face and declaring war on mediocrity. If you want to become a diamond, you don't need more hope. You need more pressure, more heat, and the courage to let your old self die so your new self can be born. Right now, thousands of feet beneath the Earth's surface, something extraordinary is happening. Carbon atoms are being crushed under unimaginable pressure, heated to temperatures that would melt steel, compressed for millions of years until they transform into the most precious stones known to humanity. Diamonds are not created in comfort zones. They're forged in the furnace of intense pressure and heat, and so are you. Every single person listening to me today has felt the crushing weight of difficult times. You have experienced moments when everything you built seemed to crumble, when the future looked darker than the deepest cave, when you wondered if you had what it takes to survive another day. But here is what I want you to understand. Those moments of intense pressure are not accidents. They are not punishments. They are the very conditions required for your transformation from ordinary carbon into a diamond. Let me tell you about Marcus Thompson. 3 years ago, Marcus owned a thriving construction company in Atlanta. He had 47 employees, a beautiful office building, and contracts worth millions of dollars. He was living the American dream. Then 2008 hit like a tsunami. The economy collapsed overnight. Construction projects were canceled. Clients stopped paying their bills. Banks froze credit lines within 6 months. Marcus lost everything. His business closed, his house went into foreclosure, his marriage fell apart. He found himself sleeping on his brother's couch at 42 years old, wondering how his life had fallen apart so completely. But Marcus did something that most people don't do when times get tough. Instead of staying down, instead of accepting defeat, instead of blaming the economy or the government or bad luck, Marcus made a decision that changed everything. He decided to treat his crisis as his classroom. While other contractors were complaining and giving up, Marcus was studying. He was learning new skills. He was preparing for the comeback that he knew was coming today. Marcus owns the largest green construction company in the Southeast. His business generates more revenue in 1 month than his old company made in 6 months. He employs over 100 people. He has been featured in business magazines as an innovator in sustainable building practices. The pressure that crushed his old life created the foundation for a new life that was bigger, stronger, and more meaningful than anything he had before. This is not a fairy tale. This is the law of transformation. When life applies pressure to you, it is not trying to destroy you. It is trying to change you. It is trying to squeeze out of you everything that is not essential, everything that is weak, everything that cannot survive in the real world. The pressure is not your enemy. The pressure is your teacher. But here is what you must understand. Not everyone who faces pressure becomes a diamond. Some people become dust. The difference is not in the amount of pressure they face. The difference is in how they respond to that pressure. The difference is in what they choose to do when times get tough. Most people, when they face difficult times, they do one of three things. They either deny the reality of their situation and pretend everything is fine, or they get angry and blame everyone else for their problems, or they give up and accept defeat as permanent. None of these responses will transform you. None of these responses will make you stronger. None of these responses will create the life you were meant to live. The people who emerge from tough times as diamonds do something completely different. They accept the reality of their situation without accepting it as permanent. They take responsibility for their response even when they are not responsible for their circumstances. They use the pressure as fuel for growth instead of an excuse for giving up when you are going through tough times. Your mind will play tricks on you. It will tell you that this is how things will always be. It will convince you that you are not strong enough, smart enough, or good enough to overcome your challenges. It will whisper lies about your worth, your potential, and your future. But I want you to remember something. Your current situation is not your final destination. Present circumstances are not your permanent address. The same pressure that can crush you can also create you. The same heat that can burn you can also refine you. The same storm that can destroy you can also strengthen you. But you must make a choice. You must decide whether you will be a victim of your circumstances or a victor over them. This choice is not made once. This choice is made every single day. Sometimes every single hour. When you are in the middle of your storm, every time you get up instead of staying in bed, every time you take action instead of making excuses, every time you focus on solutions instead of problems, every time you speak life instead of death over your situation, these small choices compound into massive results. The transformation from carbon to diamond does not happen overnight. It takes time, it takes pressure, it takes heat, but most importantly, it takes the willingness to endure the process without giving up. Most people want the diamond without the pressure. They want the victory without the battle. They want the promotion without the preparation. But life does not work that way. Your tough times are not interrupting your success story. Your tough times are writing your success story. Every challenge you face is adding character to your testimony. Every obstacle you overcome is adding strength to your foundation. Every battle you win is adding wisdom to your arsenal. So when times get tough, and they will get tough, remember this. You are not going through this experience, you are growing through this experience. The pressure you feel today is preparing you for the promotion you will receive tomorrow. The heat you experience now is refining you for the purpose you will fulfill later. You are not being destroyed, you are being developed. You are not being weakened, you are being strengthened. You are becoming the diamond that was always inside you, waiting for the right conditions to emerge. There was an old lighthouse keeper named Samuel who had maintained the same lighthouse for 37 years. He had weathered hundreds of storms, guided thousands of ships safely to shore, and never once abandoned his post. But one autumn night, the worst storm in recorded history hit his coastline. Winds reached over 150 miles per hour. Waves crashed against his lighthouse with the force of freight trains. The storm raged for 3 days straight. Other lighthouse keepers along the coast evacuated their posts. They declared the storm too dangerous, the conditions impossible. But Samuel did something different. Instead of focusing on the size of the storm, he focused on the strength of his lighthouse. Instead of counting the waves crashing against him, he counted the ships that still needed his light. Instead of measuring the wind speed, he measured his commitment to his purpose. When the storm finally passed, Samuel's lighthouse was the only one still operating along the entire coastline. Ships for hundreds of miles depended on his light to find their way home. The same storm that drove other keepers away revealed the true value of Samuel's faithfulness. The storm did not defeat him because he understood something that most people miss when times get tough. The storm is not your enemy. The storm is your revealer. It shows you what you are really made of. It strips away everything that is not essential and reveals what truly matters. But only if you choose to see it that way. When tough times hit your life, your first instinct is to focus on what is wrong. You count your losses, you measure your problems, you calculate how far you have fallen. But this is exactly backwards. This is like trying to drive by looking in the rearview mirror. You will crash every single time. Stop seeing problems as problems. Start seeing them as assignments. Every challenge in your life is actually a classroom. Every difficulty is actually a diploma waiting to be earned. Every setback is actually a setup for a comeback. But you must change how you look at your situation before your situation will change. The first thing you must do when times get tough is take complete inventory of what you still have, not what you have lost. Most people become so focused on their losses that they become blind to their assets. They count their debts, but forget their skills. They measure their failures, but ignore their experience. They focus on their weakness, but overlook their strengths. I know a woman named Rosa who lost her job as a bank manager after 23 years of faithful service. The bank merged with another company, and her position was eliminated at 51 years old. She felt like her career was over. Nobody wanted to hire someone her age. Her savings were running low. She was facing foreclosure on her house. But Rosa did something that changed everything. Instead of focusing on what she had lost, she made a list of what she still possessed. 23 years of financial experience, a network of hundreds of business contacts, a deep understanding of how money works, a reputation for integrity and reliability, a desire to help people succeed financially. Rosa realized that she did not lose her job. She gained her freedom. She started a financial consulting business from her kitchen table. She helped small business owners manage their money better. Within 2 years, her consulting firm was generating more income than her old banking job. Within 5 years, she had a team of 12 consultants working with her. The loss that looked like the end of her career became the beginning of her calling. Your current situation is temporary, not permanent. This is not where your story ends. This is where your real story begins. But you must understand that temporary and permanent are not determined by time. They are determined by your response. If you respond with defeat, temporary becomes permanent. If you respond with determination, permanent becomes possible. The lighthouse does not stop shining because the storm is strong. The lighthouse shines brighter because the storm is dark. The darker the night, the more valuable the light becomes. Your tough times are not hiding your light. Your tough times are creating the conditions where your light becomes most valuable. When you change your perspective, you change your power. When you change how you see your situation, you change how you respond to your situation. When you change your response, you change your results. The storm that is meant to sink you can become the wind that fills your sails. But only if you adjust your perspective and recognize what you still have working in your favor. Now let me tell you about Maria Gonzalez, a single mother of 3 children who was laid off from her job at a textile factory in North Carolina. She had worked there for 15 years, and suddenly she found herself with no income, 3 hungry children, and bills piling up like autumn leaves. Her unemployment benefits barely covered the rent, and she was watching her savings disappear faster than water through a broken dam. Most people in Maria's situation would panic. They would apply for job after job, waiting for someone else to solve their problem. They would depend on government assistance or charity to survive. But Maria understood something that most people never learn. She realized that she could not afford to wait for someone else to rescue her. Maria looked around her small apartment and made a decision that changed everything. She decided to turn her kitchen into a business. She had always been known for her incredible cooking, especially her grandmother's tamale recipe that had been passed down through 4 generations. Neighbors and friends constantly asked her to make tamales for their parties and celebrations. Within 1 week, Maria had transformed her kitchen into a small-scale food production facility. She started with $50 that she borrowed from her sister. She bought ingredients to make 2 dozen tamales. She sold them to her neighbors for $3 each. In 1 day, she had turned $50 into $72. The next day, she made 4 dozen. The day after that, 6 dozen. Within 3 months, Maria was making more money from her kitchen than she had ever made at the textile factory within 6 months. She had hired 2 other women to help her keep up with demand. Within 1 year, she had opened a small restaurant. Today, Maria owns 5 restaurants across 3 states, and her story has been featured in business magazines as an example of entrepreneurial success. The key to Maria's success was not her tamale recipe, although they were delicious. The key was her understanding of a fundamental principle. When times get tough, you cannot afford to have all your eggs in one basket. You must create multiple streams of income, even if each stream starts as a trickle when tough times hit. Most people make the mistake of putting all their energy into finding one big solution. They want one job that will solve all their problems. They want one opportunity that will fix everything. But this approach is dangerous because it leaves you vulnerable. If that one solution fails, you are back to square one. Instead, you must think like a river. A river does not depend on one source of water. It collects water from hundreds of tributaries, thousands of small streams, millions of raindrops. Each contribution might be small, but together they create a powerful flow that can move mountains and carve canyons. Start small, but start now. Do not wait until you have enough money to start the perfect business. Do not wait until you have the ideal opportunity. Do not wait until conditions are perfect. Perfect conditions never come. Successful people do not wait for perfect conditions. They create conditions by taking action. So look at what you already know how to do. Look at what you already own. Look at what people already ask you for help with. Look at what problems you can solve for others. Your next income stream is probably hiding in plain sight, waiting for you to recognize it and act on it. But the difference between people who survive tough times and people who thrive in tough times is simple. Survivors wait for rescue. Thrivers create their own rescue. Survivors hope for change. Thrivers become the change. Survivors look for opportunities. Thrivers create opportunities. Which one will you be? There is something fascinating about eagles that most people never learn. When a storm approaches, most birds do what seems logical. They find shelter, they hide in trees, they wait for the storm to pass. But eagles do something that appears completely crazy. They fly directly into the storm. They use the storm's own power to lift them above the turbulence, while other birds are hiding and waiting. Eagles are soaring at altitudes where the air is calm and the view is clear. This is exactly what you must do when times get tough. While everyone else is hiding, waiting, and complaining, you must position yourself strategically to take advantage of the very conditions that are defeating others. You must learn to use the storm as your elevator instead of your enemy when economic storms hit. Most people make the same mistake. They retreat, they cut relationships, they stop networking, they avoid people because they're embarrassed about their situation. They isolate themselves at the exact moment when they need connection the most. This is like closing your parachute when you are falling. It guarantees a crash landing during tough times. Relationships become more valuable, not less valuable. People need help. People need solutions. People need encouragement. If you can be the person who provides what others need during difficult times, you will create bonds that last a lifetime. You will build a network that will support you long after the storm has passed. But here is what most people miss. You cannot wait until you need help to start building relationships. You cannot wait until you need a favor to start doing favors. You must invest in relationships when you do not need anything from anyone. You must plant seeds in good weather if you want to harvest in bad weather. I want you to understand something about opportunity. Opportunity is not democratic. It does not visit everyone equally. Opportunity is attracted to preparation and repelled by desperation. Opportunity knocks loudest on the doors of people who have spent time getting ready for opportunity's arrival. While others are panicking during tough times, you must be positioning. While others are cutting expenses, you must be cutting through to solutions. While others are playing defense, you must be playing offense. This does not mean being reckless with your resources. This means being strategic with your actions. The greatest fortunes in history were built during the worst economic times. The most successful companies were started during recessions. The most innovative solutions were created during periods of greatest need. Why? Because tough times create hungry markets. People are desperate for solutions. They are willing to pay for anything that works. They are open to trying new approaches because the old approaches have failed them. But you must position yourself correctly to take advantage of these opportunities. You must develop skills that make you recession-proof. You must become valuable in ways that do not depend on economic conditions. You must solve problems that exist regardless of whether times are good or bad. What problems do people have that persist whether the economy is up or down? People always need to eat. People always need shelter. People always need to feel secure. People always need to solve problems. People always need to communicate. People always need to save time. People always need to save money. If you can position yourself to meet these fundamental needs, you will never lack opportunities. The storm is not coming to destroy you. The storm is coming to reposition you. The storm is coming to move you from where you are to where you need to be. But you must work with the storm, not against it. You must use the storm's energy to lift you higher instead of letting the storm's pressure push you down. The eagle's secret lies not just in flying into the storm, but in understanding the anatomy of turbulence itself. Every storm has layers. At ground level, the chaos is overwhelming. Trees bend and break. Debris flies in every direction, and visibility is near zero. But at higher altitudes, above the storm clouds, the air is perfectly still. The sun is shining. The view extends for hundreds of miles in every direction. The storm that looks infinite from below reveals its true size and boundaries from above. This is precisely what happens when you learn to elevate your thinking during tough times. The problems that seem insurmountable from your current perspective suddenly become manageable when viewed from a higher vantage point. The limitations that feel permanent suddenly reveal themselves as temporary obstacles with clear pathways around them. Let me tell you about Dr. Jennifer Walsh, a pediatrician who ran a successful practice in a small town in Oregon. She had built her reputation over 12 years, helping hundreds of children stay healthy and grow strong. Then a massive hospital corporation moved into her town and opened a pediatric clinic with 5 doctors, state-of-the-art equipment, and the ability to accept insurance plans that Jennifer's small practice could not afford to process. Within 8 months, Jennifer lost 70% of her patients. Her overhead costs remained the same, but her revenue plummeted. She was facing bankruptcy, and it seemed like her career as an independent physician was over. The corporate giant had resources she could never match, marketing budgets that dwarfed her entire annual income, and the backing of a multi-billion-dollar healthcare system. But Jennifer understood something that the corporate executives had missed. They were focused on efficiency and volume, but they had lost touch with the personal connection that made healthcare truly healing. Their doctors saw patients for 7-minute appointments. They relied on technology instead of intuition. They treated symptoms instead of understanding the whole child. Jennifer made a radical decision. Instead of trying to compete with the corporation on their terms, she would redefine what pediatric care could look like. She transformed her practice into something completely different. She started making house calls again, something that had been abandoned by most doctors decades ago. She began offering concierge-style healthcare, where families paid a monthly fee for unlimited access to her services. She created wellness programs that taught parents how to prevent illness instead of just treating it after it occurred. She started offering telemedicine consultations for families who traveled frequently. She developed specialized programs for children with chronic conditions, providing the kind of personalized attention that large hospital systems could never deliver. Within 2 years, Jennifer's practice was more profitable than it had ever been. She was working with fewer patients, but providing dramatically better care. Her waiting list was months long. Families were driving from other states to access her services. The corporate competition that threatened to destroy her practice had actually forced her to discover her true calling and develop her unique value proposition. The storm had not come to end her career. The storm had come to elevate her career to a level she never could have imagined while she was comfortable in her old routine. This reveals the fourth principle you must embrace when times get tough. You must learn to see competition as clarification, not elimination. When external forces threaten your current approach, they are not necessarily trying to destroy you. They may be trying to redirect you towards something better, something more aligned with your unique strengths and purposes. Most people, when faced with competition or external pressure, try to fight fire with fire. They attempt to outcompete their competitors using the same strategies their competitors use. But this approach almost always fails because it forces you to play their game by their rules with their advantages instead. You must use competition as a catalyst to discover what makes you irreplaceable. What do you offer that cannot be duplicated? What value do you provide that goes beyond price and convenience? What unique combination of skills, experience, and personality do you possess that no one else can replicate? The answer to these questions becomes your competitive moat, your protection against any storm that might come your way. When you discover what makes you truly unique and valuable, you stop competing and start creating. You stop following and start leading. You stop reacting and start pioneering. But this discovery process requires something that most people find difficult during tough times. It requires you to be still long enough to listen to what the pressure is trying to teach you. In our noisy, reactive world, the tendency during crisis is to move faster, work harder, and try more things. But sometimes the breakthrough comes not from doing more, but from understanding more. There is an ancient Chinese principle that says, when you cannot solve a problem at your current level of thinking, you must rise to a higher level of thinking where the solution becomes obvious. This is what happens when you stop fighting the storm and start learning from the storm. This is when you discover that the very thing that seemed designed to defeat you, the pressure that feels like it is crushing you, is actually creating space for something new to emerge. The heat that feels like it is burning you is actually purifying you, removing everything that is not essential to your true purpose. The storm that feels like it is destroying your old life is actually constructing your new life, one that is more resilient, more valuable, and more meaningful than anything you could have built in calm conditions. Your tough times are not random events that happen to interrupt your success story. Your tough times are precisely orchestrated experiences designed to prepare you for the next chapter of your life. A chapter that requires capabilities you do not yet possess and strength you have not yet developed. The diamond that emerges from the pressure is not just harder than the carbon that went in. It is also more beautiful, more valuable, and more useful. It can cut through materials that would break other stones. It can withstand forces that would shatter other gems. It reflects light in ways that create beauty that takes people's breath away. This is your destiny when you learn to embrace the pressure instead of resisting it. This is your future when you learn to use the storm as your elevator instead of your enemy. This is your promise when you understand that you are not going through tough times to be destroyed. You are going through tough times to be reconstructed into something the world desperately needs. The storm will pass, but the diamond you become in the storm will last forever. And that diamond, stronger, clearer, more valuable than anything you were before, will light the way for countless others who are still learning to dance in the rain, still learning to fly in the storm, still learning to become the diamonds they were always meant to be. Your transformation is not complete. Your story is not finished. Your greatest chapter is being written right now, in the middle of the pressure, in the heart of the storm, in the forge where diamonds are born.